Another day, another borderline insane Barcelona match. In what was meant to be their toughest test of the season, despite the 3-3 scoreline, for long spells of the match Barcelona looked dominant. But what was the tactical approach that led to this? Well, let's first look at Barca in possession, as they ended the match with over 70% of the ball. From early on, it was clear that despite injuries to key personnel, Barcelona would be sticking to their guns in possession, with Koundé forming the third man in the build-up, perhaps a touch deeper than usual, to ensure that they always had the numerical advantage against the front two. Inter flirted with a couple of different pressing approaches. The first saw either DiMarco or Dumfries push up to immediately apply pressure on the third man. This aggressive approach could lead to some vulnerabilities though for Inter, as if it wasn't executed immaculately, there was the potential for Yamal to lure Bastoni out of position and create an isolation with plenty of space behind the centre-back. So what we saw most commonly was when the front two pressed, it was up to a midfielder to apply pressure on the third man, allowing the wingbacks to sit deep, and their added protection in the deeper areas then also allowed them to be more flexible with their centre-backs, who could now potentially jump to press a midfielder. But here's the reality, going one up so early and then soon adding a second may have affected Inter's game plan, as they quickly backed off the press as the half wore on, and they became fairly passive, dropping deeper into a 5-3-2. Early on, Lautaro and Thuram were staying as high as feasibly possible, so that when Inter Milan did win the ball back, they had two men that they could potentially look to hit to hold up the play and allow the Italians to move up the pitch. But Barca were in their usual attacking shape, with the width being provided by Yamal on the right and Martin on the left, though he wasn't quite as effective as Balde usually is, and in the second half he was brought off. De Jong primarily operated as a single pivot, with the rest of the side looking to cause overloads higher up the pitch between the lines. So at times, De Jong was being found too easily when the front two were higher up, and the Dutchman was dictating the game and helping to ensure that Inter were starved of the ball. So soon, that front two began to find themselves dropping deeper and deeper to help Inter protect zone 14. Issue, of course, is that this led to a self-fulfilling cycle of Inter seeing less and less and less of the ball. And when they did win it, they now had no one to hit, meaning virtually none of the game took place in Barcelona's own third. But here's where things began to heat up: the Yamal factor. When dealing with tricky wingers who excel in isolations, the best way to render them useless is to ensure they never get the ball in the first place. But Inter Milan's naturally narrow defensive shape meant that, especially when Mkhitaryan was narrow, helping to protect the centre, it was ridiculously easy for Koundé to play the ball into Yamal, meaning the winger essentially had an unlimited supply of the ball, ending with over 100 touches, which is unheard of for a winger. And DiMarco, probably wisely, did not look to be touch-tight on Yamal, because the Spaniard, of course, would be more than likely to turn him. So instead, he sat off, and Inter looked to use another usually effective strategy: the double team. Henrik Mkhitaryan was tasked with coming across to assist DiMarco, and here the problems began to emerge. Throughout the 90, Bastoni tended to be man-oriented on Dani Olmo, who operated in the right channel, and as a result, the centre-back could be drawn in, creating room here for a runner, be it Koundé or Olmo in this scenario, where Pedri is the man who has dragged Bastoni out of position, creating the room for Olmo to potentially attack. But though that strategy didn't directly lead to a goal, it was clear that Barcelona was sensing a weakness in the region, and one of the strengths of this flick side is the fluidity and the rotations. So what we would see at times is opposing movements to drag a centre-back deep before getting a runner in behind, with Olmo often creating space for a midfielder to run beyond, and Ferran Torres looking to do the same whenever possible. But, for the most part, the one advantage of Inter's defensive shape is that the centre was hard to penetrate, so they could deal with these rotations at times. But the real penetration came through Lamine Yamal on the right. As discussed, Inter looked to have two men on him. But it did not matter. Yamal was consistently able to cause nightmares for Inter, often taking on both men and getting to the byline to whip in dangerous crosses even on his weak foot. And here's the key: Barcelona's central shape, with so many men between the lines, meant that the midfield runners are always ready to join Ferran to get on the end of crosses. The same occurred when Yamal was instead cutting infield to swing across towards the back post, with the key being always having plenty of runners that are causing danger. Sometimes the best tactical approach is simply to make sure that your best player gets a lot of the ball. And aided by Inter's defensive shape, Barcelona allowed the individual quality of Yamal to rule. But in our pre-match preview, one of the big questions was how Barcelona would deal with Inter's back three in the build. So let's take a look at Barcelona out of possession. Barcelona ended up taking a hybrid approach to deal with the Inter build-up, using 3 different pressing shapes depending on how Inter were setting up. From the goal kicks, Acerbi could push to a pivot position, with the wide centre-backs tucking in. And in these situations, Inter had essentially shifted to the same shape a standard back four might use in the build-up, meaning that Barcelona could use their preferred pressing shape, with Ferran dropping with Acerbi and Yamal and Rafinha tucking in to press in advance of the striker. Alternatively, Acerbi and Bastoni could drop outside the goalkeeper, and in these scenarios it was Ferran and Yamal who became the front two, with Rafinha dropping deeper to cover, a slight adaptation to their usual high pressing shape. And despite conceding 3, in open play Barca looked decent defensively. Their adaptation here was simple, with the front 3 committing to pressing the centre-backs, and in this match, Inter were not as aggressive in rotating their centre-backs within midfield, as we've seen throughout the season, and this made life a lot easier for Barcelona when it came to defending. Only Acerbi was occasionally pushing into the midfield, but Barcelona communicated effectively, passing on the centre-back and maintaining the defensive shape. But where Barcelona did look vulnerable is something they've struggled with all season, which is the weak side switch. Barcelona's wingers being high and narrow means that when the opposition begins the play down one flank, the back four does tend to naturally be drawn across the pitch. This then means that a quick switch often sees the opposition's wide man get into a dangerous position, because the winger defending high leaves the fullback potentially isolated, which we did see some of when Inter did venture to attack. And in the second half in particular, we saw Inter try to take advantage of Barcelona's aggressively high line, like so many teams before them. And like most of those teams, they were met with frustration, be it being slightly offside, Szczesny to the rescue, or a backline producing incredible recoveries. Yet another incredible Champions League match that demonstrated the importance of individual quality and the importance of moments such as set pieces. The tie is perfectly balanced, but I want to know 2 things. What are your thoughts on this match, including any elements I couldn't cover, and how do you see the second leg going? Drop it down below. And if you've always wanted to learn tactical analysis to a high level and transform your tactical understanding, now is the time. Tactical Mastery, my proven step-by-step system to master tactical analysis, is now live and available at an exclusive early bird price. For years you've asked how you can learn tactical analysis, and I get it, there's not much out there that explains tactics in depth but in a simple manner. When I began learning analysis nearly a decade ago, I faced the exact same frustrations. Instructors using complex jargon to sound clever rather than to teach, big organizations charging you a bunch then treating you like just another number, companies splitting content into dozens of modules to charge you separately for each, and subscription traps designed to charge you forever. But Tactical Mastery breaks down analysis brick by brick, from the fundamentals to advanced concepts, in the same straightforward style you know from the channel, with no charging per module, no subscriptions, no unnecessary complexity, and access to myself and a community of other analysts. The singular focus of the program is helping you master tactical analysis as efficiently as possible. By the end of the program, you'll gain the confidence to dissect any match, identify patterns invisible to most fans, and experience football at a level that transforms your relationship with the beautiful game. So if you're ready to finally master tactical analysis, click the link down in the comments or the description below.